One day, on Widow Tweed's farm, Bagheera and Baloo came to visit Twilight Sparkle, Spike, and Cusco. They told the story of how Bernard and Bianca first met. Meanwhile, on another farm next door, the mice discovered that their old friend, a man named Amos Slade, has grown up and has a hound named Chief and a puppy named Copper. Amos is the same man that the mice befriended. They once rescued him from Professor Radigan. A week later, Bianca and Bernard are later married. A month later, Twilight Sparkle, Spike, Cusco, and the ponies went on a trip to a jungle deep in the enchanted forest. Once there, they befriended a rare jungle creature named Hugo, the jungle animal. He was friends with a pair of apes named Zig and Zag. Meanwhile, Snips and Snails tried to capture and kidnap Hugo, but he escaped. Twilight and her friends brought Hugo into the forest with them and met a duck named Launchpad McQuack. Elsewhere, Snips and Snails hired a Sith Lord named Darth Maul to help them find and capture Hugo. The next day, Hugo befriended Robin Hood's sister, Rita, and the animals befriended two Jedi warriors. The Jedi warriors are called Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn. On a road trip, Qui-Gon taught Hugo about doing the right thing. Meanwhile, Rita was kidnapped by a group of apes called the Banderlog. But Hugo and Robin rescued her. Having enough with those apes, Rita ran into the forest, allowing Robin to defend his band of merry men. Later, Obi-Wan welcomed Hugo and Rita to his home in a village, near from that house on the hill. One night, in the forest, Twilight encountered Darth Maul. He pretends to be friendly with the little pony, and he took her to a castle where he lives. Maul ordered Twilight to help him, Snips, and Snails to capture Hugo so they can get rich, but Twilight refused to work for the villains. Suddenly, all of Twilight's friends came to the rescue. Darth Maul struck down Qui-Gon, but Obi-Wan saved Hugo and sent Maul falling into a ravine. Snips and Snails are sent away to jail. The next day, C-3PO, R2-D2, and Chewbacca took Hugo and Rita back to Obi-Wan's house. Twilight Sparkle, Spike, and Cusco returned to Tweed's farm. Twilight, Spike, and Cusco sang a song together, happily. In the fall, Twilight Sparkle, Spike, and Cusco find Hugo and Rita in the village, but as they spend time together, they are being followed in hot pursuit by the mysterious Darth Vader and his band of stormtroopers. As the villains chased the animals to a river, they were stopped by Snips and Snails. They hired a mean man called Emperor Palpatine, who plotted to rule the forest. But when he and Vader tried to capture Twilight, she jumped into a floating wooden box and was swept away by the river. In London town, Snips and Snails argued with Palpatine, and he kicked them out. The duo were angry at Twilight for foiling them. Meanwhile, back in the forest, Twilight was rescued by Obi-Wan's apprentice, Anakin Skywalker. After they spend the night at Skywalker's apartment, Twilight, Spike, and Cusco are sent back to Tweed's farm by Anakin's wife, Padme Amidala. Later that day, Hugo battled Palpatine at his castle. When the Emperor tried to destroy him, Vader reformed and sent his former master fall into a ravine. Vader was Anakin in disguise and was no longer a con artist. Hugo reunites with Rita, and they moved into the jungle where he came from. The next day, in the woods, Twilight encountered some ponies who were being bullies to her. They mocked her about being friends with the ones from Ponyville, Spike and Cusco. As she ran back to Widow Tweed's farm, Twilight breaks down crying. Spike came and he comforts Twilight. Meanwhile, the pair and Cusco went on a trip to Simba's kingdom. It was once ruled by his father, Mufasa. The pony, the little dragon, and the llama befriended Simba's daughter, Kiara. The animals traveled to a land where strange-looking but charming creatures called Fraggles lived. Kiara befriended a Fraggle named Gobo and his friends. They also encountered his neighbors, the Gorgs. A week later, after an encounter with a trio of hyenas named Bonsai, Shenzi, and Ed, a lion named Nuka proposes to Kiara, but she refused to marry a dope like him. Later, Kiara met her childhood sweetheart, Kovo. One night at Pride Rock, Simba fought his scheming uncle Scar. Gobo, Kiara, Twilight, Spike, and Kuzco rescued Simba. Scar attacked Gobo, but the wicked lion fell off Pride Rock. Sometime after Twilight saved Gobo, Kiara and Kovo are engaged. Gobo and the Fraggles went home. A month later, on Widow Tweed's farm, Twilight befriended a little fox named Todd. He got separated from his parents, Robin Hood and Maid Marian. Tweed rescued Todd from an angry Amos Slade. Todd became best friends with Copper. The next day, Todd and Copper encountered the greedy Mystery Inc. and their dog, Scooby. An insane Daphne Blake chased Todd up to the top of Tweed's house, but Robin Hood saved Todd and knocked Daphne off the roof. Meanwhile, Tweed bid farewell to the foxes. Todd was happy to be with his parents again. In the winter and the spring, Twilight, Sparkle, Spike, and Kuzco played with the little fox. Todd was now a full-grown hunk of a fox. Sometime later, they befriended a vixen named Vixie and a wolf dog named Alu. Twilight, Spike, Kuzco, and the animals stopped Captain Hook and his pirates from invading the forest. Meanwhile, Todd rescued Copper and Amos Slade from Vixie's uncle, Foulfellow. After Foulfellow fell off a waterfall, Todd went to be with Vixie, and Alu went to be with Copper, so she lived with him on Slade's farm.